Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about the only InNOut burger in the city of Oakland closing its doors, not because it's not profitable. In fact, they have made it clear that it is a profitable location, but due to the fact that crime in and around this area is completely out of control, and they cannot guarantee the safety of their customers and their employees, which spells disaster for Oakland, because I know how much you West Coast types love your InNOut, even though your fries are just pure and plain garbage. I'm just saying you don't do a good job in that regard, but overall, this is a bad story. Now, before we get into this bad story, I want to talk about your retirement, so let me toss it over to the sponsor, then we'll bring it back over here and we'll discuss it on the other side. Gold has surpassed $2,100 an ounce, and recently, former President Donald J. Trump warned that the US losing its reserve currency status would be the greatest defeat in our 200-plus year history. Now we have conflicts breaking out in Israel, breaking out between Yemen and all over the Middle East, and all of this spells disaster for the economic outlook. On top of that, we also have an election year, and let's be honest, the incentives are to lower the interest rates. When you lower the interest rates, that incentivizes more borrowing, and guess what? There appears to be a correlation between the national debt and the price of gold. This is one of the reasons why I'm partnering with National Gold Group, because you can help secure your IRA, diversify by putting some of your money in precious metals, and right now, for those of you out there in my audience, they are offering a wonderful offer where you can get a fee waiver for IRAs for qualifying transfers. Now, if you're interested in diversifying your portfolio and protecting your investments from oncoming economic troubles, call them at 866-826-2603 and mention Actual Justice Warrior this channel so that you can get in on all the great deals for you guys out there in my audience. There is always a risk with any investment, and past performance is not necessarily a guarantee of future outcome.
To Oakland, where concerns about crime at their only InNOut right by the airport has caused the company to decide to close the location for good. InNOut is just the latest in a long line of businesses that have shut down in the last year, citing crime as a driving factor.
So one of the things that should jump out to you, other than the fact that a profitable burger chain with a very loyal customer base is closing due to crime, is the location of this particular InNOut. And the reason it should jump out to long-term viewers of this channel is because we actually covered in and around the Oakland airport before, and specifically a guy who made it his own personal mission to shout at people to take all their valuables outside of their car, because this place is a known hotbed for car break-ins. And as we know, across the bay in San Francisco, car break-ins are the thing du jour to do over there. It's the car breaking capital of this country, so it's unsurprising that this also occurs in the city of Oakland. And by the way, this is due to policy failures, which we will get into a little bit later in this particular video. But let's go back and hear what's going down in this Oakland InNOut.
The drive-through line at this Oakland InNOut is always very long. The company made it very clear this is a very busy and profitable location. They say the issue is crime and safety.
Now, it's important to understand that the long lines at InNOut are not something that is atypical. It's not something that's unusual. What is atypical is the closing of an InNOut location, because this has never happened in the 75 years that the company has existed. Sure, they've had locations relocate, but an outright closing like we have right here has never once happened until today.
Dozens of cars inching along the drive-through line, and plenty more people inside the dining room, including loyal customer Jan Bundy.
First time I tasted one of their burgers, I was like, oh my God.
The lifelong East Oakland resident comes at least twice a week. He's well aware of the car break-ins in the parking lot. There are warning signs in front of InNOut and throughout the lot.
So one of the things that I find incredibly interesting whenever we discuss crime in this country, whenever we discuss specific locations, is that oftentimes the people who live there keep it the most real about this situation. So here you have a guy who comes into InNOut because he loves their burgers. He comes in twice a week, and by the way, by the look of him, I could tell that that's probably true, and he is well aware of the problems in this particular area. He is not blind to it, like so many left-wing political commentators appear to be. You'll have somebody say, well, actually, we have this study, we have this paperwork that says that crime actually down, not up, in California overall and has nothing to do with the city of Oakland, so there's no problem at all whatsoever right here. Please ignore what's going on. But the reality on the ground is what it is, and we see in segment after segment, the locals, the people who have to deal with this criminality, tell it like it is for the most part.
He witnessed thieves breaking into a car next to him.
They have, weapons. So you don't want to run up and be no hero.
Less than 2 months ago, it happened to his truck when he ate inside.
They was trying to steal my vehicle, but I had a kill switch on it they didn't know about. So they couldn't get the vehicle, but they took all my belongings out.
The damage cost him about $500.
So here you have somebody in separate instances talking about how he pulled up into this InNOut and he saw people armed with weapons, by the way, even though California would classify this as a non-violent crime, not eligible for prison time, just in case they needed to get violent, breaking into the car that was next to him. And then a couple months later, guess what? It happened to him. However, he installed a kill switch, or had a kill switch installed in his vehicle, so they weren't able to actually steal it, although they did steal all of his personal property that was in the vehicle.
Now his partner stays in the truck while he orders inside. That's why he's not surprised InNOut is shutting down the Oakland location.
It's really a sad moment.
And as a precaution for this guy has to have somebody camped out in his vehicle, because in the time that he would order and maybe decide to eat inside, maybe decide to take it back out to his car, the risk of a car break-in is so high that he doesn't want to leave his car attended for a couple of minutes. Imagine, again, running a business like this, having to deal with customer complaint after customer complaint, potential violent incidents, potential violence to the people who work there, who might have to bring their cars to park in order to work, and being able to operate knowing that in any given time, any one of these criminals could escalate to the level of murder, and you could be out an employee and potentially face a lawsuit or higher insurance premiums or all of the other consequences of crime associated with somebody deeming that you as a business haven't done enough.
Definitely frustrated, because if it's not InNOut, it's going to be something else tomorrow.
These are people's jobs, and it's essential to have jobs so we can spend money, in the community.
Now, while the people here are frustrated, I know somebody out there in the audience is going to point out that they elected DA Pamela Price for Alameda County, and they elected the mayor of Oakland, who defunded the police, which actually reset Oakland back to the bad times, because contrary to what you might believe or what you might be writing in my comments, even though you have the perception that Oakland was always bad, a couple of years ago, reports were coming in about how Oakland crime was going down.
There were 75 homicides occurring in Oakland last year. That is down from 85 in 2016, and that follows that downward trend. 2016 brought a 12% drop in violent crime versus the 5-year average, and a 20% drop in robberies. The police department has credited the improvement on a more prominent police presence and getting help from the community. With better technology, more residents and business owners are giving police video evidence of crime.
And this was due to the fact that they hired more officers, they focused more on preventative policing, data-driven policing, and that actually drove down homicides specifically to years low, and all of those things should have been able to perpetuate themselves into a successful Oakland Police Department until the Black Lives Matter riots happened, and they ended up cutting the funding of the police, laying off a bunch of officers, and then the obvious results ended up happening. On top of that, they elected DA Pamela Price, they swore her in, she ran on not prosecuting anyone, that included murderers, by the way. She decided that she was going to go soft on them, including a triple murderer that we covered, and all these other instances that we talked about on this channel, and the proof in the pudding is in the taste, but unfortunately, if you have that pudding in your car, it's likely being stolen out of it right now. Please call the police or pull your car into some kind of garage in order to protect yourself.
The San Francisco Chronicle reports since 2019, police have recorded over 1,300 incidents in and around the fast food restaurant, more than any other location in Oakland. Most of the reported incidents were car break-ins targeting visitors coming through Oakland Airport.
I mean, just think about how crazy that is. Sure, it's over the course of a few years and whatnot, but 1,300 incidents at this InNOut. Now, I know you're going to say and think to yourself, well, InNOut has a lot of traffic, that's why there's so many incidents there, but the thing is, usually having crowds of people, crowds of civilians, acts as a deterrent for crime. One of the safest things that you could do for a park is make it nice enough for a lot of people to go in it, because typically parks have more crime when there's more people that are isolated that can be targeted by the criminals. Yet this is the most criminal hotspot in the entire city of Oakland. They've known about it for a long time, for years, and they haven't done anything about it, and it's gotten to such an absurdity that InNOut is going to close a profitable location because they fear the danger and the escalation, and they know that nobody in the mayor's office and the district attorney has their back. They have the back of the criminal. On top of that, because of the location of this InNOut, because it's right by the airport, you have a lot of people that are going to and from here as they're leaving the airport or on their way to the airport. So your out-of-town visitors are being disproportionately victimized, because that's going to lead, according to the criminal, to higher yields, because people typically will have their luggage in their rental cars or whatever, and that's more profitable for the criminal to actually pursue this. Now, in response to this, when you would have a sensible data-driven police department, you would mark this as a hotspot, send more patrols there, maybe station some officers there in order to prevent this crime. But because the Oakland PD has been defunded, because the soft on crime mentality has taken over in that city, they're not doing that, and it's gotten to such an absurd degree that they don't want to operate in this location anymore, even though, again, it's a prime location in terms of business. On top of that, the crime escalates. It goes beyond just your standard break-ins. The employees describe armed robberies and other crazy scenarios that have occurred at this particular location.
Employees tell me they've seen armed robberies of customers as well.
It's terrifying because it also puts us in danger.
This InNOut worker says thieves stay away when officers patrol the lot, but they're only here for a few hours a day.
They just look around all the time, and then they see PD leaves for a second, and then that's when they take the chance.
So first things first, and I know I have to mention this because if I don't mention this, you guys out there in the audience are going to mention this, but Daisy Nunez Valenzuela, good looking girl. She looks a little bit Asian-y. She's got the Latin last name. We don't know where she's from. It's so ambiguous. It just leads your imagination to run wild. And honestly, I'm sick of you preverts out there in the audience and not focusing on the substance and making commentary about the people's appearances in this particular video. You disgust me. You're disgusting. But that being said, let's focus on what she actually said, which was, when the police are around, just as I told you before, that deters the crime, but they're only there for a limited amount of time, and the criminals just wait for the police to leave before they actually engage in crime in these particular areas. It's almost as if the police, and call me crazy for suggesting this, can act as a deterrent. They can actually arrest people in theory and incapacitate them, and that will prevent crime from occurring over and over again at the same location for well over 4 years at this point in time. It's almost as if that is a possible theory of policing that could be implemented in the city of Oakland, if only we had some data and some studies in order to prove that, rather than the anecdotes of Miss Daisy Nunez Valenzuela.
InNOut released a statement that reads in part, despite taking repeated steps to create safer conditions, our customers and associates are regularly victimized by car break-ins, property damage, thefts, and armed robberies. We cannot ask them to visit or work in an unsafe environment.
You know, it shouldn't have to be on the company. It shouldn't have to be on the business to put up with this and to make this call about the safety of this particular area just because they happen to be incredibly successful. They're in an ideal location. They're one of the first stops that a lot of people want to make at InNOut when they get off a plane at the Oakland airport. They're one of the last stops people want to make on their way to the airport because people have a lot of love for InNOut burgers, but definitely not their french fries. And the thing is, that is being utilized by the criminal to victimize the people who work there, to victimize the customers, to victimize everybody in the surrounding area, and InNOut has had enough with it, even though they've tried to implement all these different safety measures, because it's just too much for them to bear. The company itself doesn't want to deal with the potential of people getting killed in their store, in and around their business, because they're good at business, and this should be a red flag for the Oakland mayor, a red flag for DA Pamela Price, but of course, they're more concerned, more interested invested in the criminal than in the law-abiding citizen than in the business, so they probably think it's a good thing that this successful company is moving out, because God forbid we would have successful businesses in our city when we could just let the criminals run wild.
We are in a state of emergency. We are in the state of emergency. Should it have to take a declaration to deliver when we're living this? My district has been in crisis.
Councilwoman Tria Reed represents the area. She's been calling on the city council and Mayor Sheng Tao to provide more police resources, but says she has gotten very little support.
So right here we have a city councilwoman who covers this particular district, and she is very upset about this. She wants more police resources sent to this location. But the thing is, I'm always suspicious of these declarations, of people finding themselves on the right side of an issue at this point in time, especially when I know that the majority of the Oakland City Council voted to defund the police just a couple of years ago, and that led to the reversal, that led to the problems that Oakland is facing right now. But I am happy to report that upon investigating, upon looking this up, she actually voted against that budget, so she was at least right on that particular issue at that moment in time. So she is not responsible for the problems, and she's been pretty consistent that she wants these police resources in her area because it's a hotspot.
Starbucks in the same lot shut down late last year. Raising Cane's is doing drive-through only to prevent car break-ins. InNOut says its last day will be on March 24th.
Now, like I said, I did an entire video on this whole complex before, and on a guard that was just so frustrated that he was screaming out to people to not leave anything in their car because break-ins have gotten so crazy. I talked about that Starbucks closing. I talked about the Raising Cane's going into drive-through only and all of that. So that will be linked in the description if you want to check out this video. But yeah, this is a known problem. Multiple businesses in this particular area have closed. They know that car break-ins happen here all the time. They know that police patrols deter it when they're actually around, and yet they don't send the police in. They don't have them camping here, despite the fact that a basic data-driven policing model would indicate that you definitely want to do so. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about InNOut Closing due to the insane amounts of crime. Till next time.